Welcome back to the Rock Hall Debate, where we debate the 2025 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nominees. In today's episode, Mana, a band that neither of us had really heard of, and we actually flipped a coin for pro and con, even though we both, disclaimer, on top of T's coming disclaimer, we did listen to the band and we checked them out. And what is your disclaimer?
My disclaimer is even though this is the sides we are on, it does not reflect our personal opinion or what we truly believe should be or should not be in the Hall of Fame. We're just kind of spewing out some facts and discussing it and having an open debate, hoping you leave in the comments what you think and if you think any of these bands are deserving of getting in this year or not and why. And as always, the green square means the pro side of the debate. So that is Kev to kick us off today. So, Kev, what did you think, or what do you think about Mana getting into the Hall of Fame?
All right. So, when you say to someone Latin rock, they think of Santana, right? That's like people's whole world with Latin rock. Mana is the definition of Latin rock. Most successful bands of all time. Part of the problem is, let me go into a little rant here. When people say Western music, they think of American bands. 90% of the music in the world is probably not Western music, so to speak. And these guys have this huge audience, 40 million records sold globally, headline stadiums around the world. You never hear about them in America. But the Rock Hall is giving them a nod. They brought arena rock energy into Latin music. Now, if you've seen us with the Fish shows, I'm big with the arena rock anthems, and they totally checked that box. It wasn't ballads, it wasn't pop. They took rock, reggae, ska, traditional Latin rhythms, and built it into something completely fresh. And there's influence, right? There's a bunch of Latinx artists who wanted to be in a band, not just pop stars, and Mana has opened the door for them. I mean, if you go in and you look at Mexico City rock bands, there's a whole flourishing scene down there, and a lot of them could check the box that they were Mana fans.
It is interesting. Like, they are massively successful in Latin America and among Spanish speaking audiences. It doesn't take you long to see that or figure that out. That's for sure. But their influence outside of that sphere is really, really limited.
But that's 90% of the music released in the world.
It's true. I mean, it's true. But it's to be recognized and to be up for the Hall of Fame, you would think there would be a little bit more global sensational to them, or like at least knowledge of them. They haven't had that broad cultural or musical impact across rock's core markets, especially US and Europe. South America, yes.
No one heard of them. Everyone was scratching their heads. They're like, what's Mana?
Who are they?
Be honest, when you dig into it, it's good stuff, right?
Yeah, and they're actually touring this summer in the States. They're playing Red Rocks a couple shows. It's funny, I'm getting targeted for them on my TV and things now. So it's I was like, never heard of this band, and now all of a sudden I'm like inundated with them. But it's interesting, and that's good. Maybe they need more of that exposure and more of that kind of thing, because you want them to, if they're getting nominated for a Hall of Fame, you want them to get some exposure and people to hear their music, because there must be something good about it. I will say some of that, it lacks some of the rawness and the edge and the genre defining innovation typically associated with Rock Hall inductees, how we talk about some of that stuff.
It's polished.
It's primarily Latin pop rock, right? What they are. They blend rock with ballads, reggae, as you mentioned, soft pop, but their sound is much more polished and mainstream than rooted in traditional alternative rock or anything like that. It's definitely a pop sort of sound and band.
But what is Cyndi Lauper?
Right. Pop punk.
What is Mariah Carey? If you're going to go there, what
diva
is Mariah
pop.
Carey? Right. I mean, it's the same. I guess you're in the same realm there.
I think
something like a Mariah Carey.
I think their catalog though speaks for that too. While beloved, it's often seen as very formulaic and lacking like an artistic experimentation that defines like some of that
They're
Hall
a
of Fame.
rock band. The Ramones did the same album 13 times, and they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean,
True. And they kind of run that same sort of popish, soundish punk, sort of thing. So, I mean, I get it. And to your point, Santana, Los Lobos, there's a few bands that like come to mind when you think of groundbreaking fusions in Latin music and rock that changed kind of that sound of the crossing over of bringing that genre into rock and roll and sort of mixing that. I mean, obviously Santana, as you mentioned, is the king
mhm.
of that sort of with that sound and all of that. Um, and bringing
Oh, you
you
go
sort of that
Baba.
feeling.
He took Tito Puente and made him into mainstream rock knowledge. You get jam bands still doing Oyo Como Va jams, you know?
Oh, definitely, and brought in sort of that entire Latin flavor into rock and jam band because it's much like jazz is in sort of that rock and classic rock especially and jam band music. Same thing with Latin jazz, like it's that same sound, it's that same sort of feeling that you want to get into like Latin pop. And look at all the stars, for the most part when you look at Latin music, there is always horn sections. Gloria Estefan, like Enrique Iglesias, who like they always have the horn sections because it's just a natural fit with that
Horn
music.
sections are hot. Have you ever, let's take a complete left turn. Have you ever seen Ruben Blades with Jerry Garcia? There's
Mm-hmm.
a video on YouTube of Ruben Blades with Jerry Garcia. And Jerry comes and sits in with these people, and I've never seen the man smile like he does when he's out there with the horns and the Latin rhythms and the guy on the congos. It's like, why wasn't he doing this instead of playing with Bob Weir? But
It's
that's
like
a whole
happy
other question.
music though, right? It moves your hips and not in the way the twist moves your hips, in sort of a different way.
But the twist was okay for white people. That's what
Right,
that boils
exactly.
down to.
Exactly. It was the white people sort of salsa way of moving your hips.
No, my final argument's going to be that if the Hall of Fame, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, is supposed to reflect the global impact and diversity of the genre of rock music, then Mana isn't just worthy. They expand what the Hall can and should represent. And I think it's time that we took that step, along with adding more women, to make the Hall more diverse and say, screw you, we're woke.
Hey, I can't argue with that point. I think that's a great point to make and necessary. And I appreciate them being nominated. I think it's a good thing, and the exposure hopefully helps them. If they don't get in, then at least it helps
Did they
them.
get did they get a second look from you if they get another nod? They don't get in this time, their name pops up again. Did they
Yeah,
become more worthy?
I think so. I would think so, and I would hope so. And I think maybe that's what it takes for even some of these, a lot of these to get sort of at least more people listening to your music to recognize the greatness in it and then hearing if it deserves it or not. And I think with Mana, they followed an already established path, offering refinement rather than a revolution. And I think that's the one knock on them
I
in
like
getting
that.
in.
I like that refinement rather than revolution. That's
See,
good. I
they
like
didn't pull the Santana and revolutionize that sound. They sort of just refine what was there in the pop. So I think that's the one knock and why I think they might not get in. But let us know what you think in the
they
comments
won't
below.
get in. They'll either get in because of woke or they won't get in because of woke.
You're going with the woke vote. It'll be interesting to
We love
see.
you
It will
guys.
be interesting to see what happens, and we'll probably do follow-up episodes for everybody that gets
Yeah,
in and
well,
talk about them for
afterwards,
sure.
yeah, after
Yeah,
they announce the 7 that get in, we'll talk about it and how wrong or right the 2
we
of us
were.
were. Comment, let us know
Let us
what you
know.
think.
Thanks for watching.